It's recap time. I bring you one more recap. Today I'll be explaining an action thriller movie called Prey, released in 2024. The film begins with the introduction of Dr. Andrew, who is sitting in total disappointment inside his tent. When his guide arrives to provide him with integral information, we get to see that one of his patients died due to the lack of equipment. The guide informs Andrew that the militants are closing on his tent and that he needs to escape. Without wasting much time, Andrew meets with his wife Sue, who is also a doctor and is present in Africa to help the needy. He states that they need to escape before the situation gets out of control. Even though Sue is a little hesitant at first, she listens to her husband ultimately. When Sue and Andrew leave for the plane, they meet with the pilot, Grun, in the next scene. The couple understands that Grun is a greedy man who is operating a malfunctioning airplane. A local guide by the name of Thabo is present among the passengers on the plane. Meanwhile, Sue bids farewell to her local guide and expresses discontent with the lack of help due to the bad guys. In the next scene, Dr. Andrew converses with Grun and recognizes him immediately. He tells the pilot that he knows about the missing medical supplies and the rest of the equipment, which ultimately led to the death of his patient. Grun shows a lack of remorse and starts loading the passengers. He further orders them to remove their luggage, as the plane is not in good shape and cannot carry the weight. The passengers plead with him, and he allows them to carry the luggage as long as everyone is keeping it on their lap. Eventually, the plane takes off and the trouble begins. The turbulence starts to disturb the passengers, who complain to the pilot. They realize that the plane is still overloaded and might not be able to fly properly. Grun assures everyone that the situation is completely under control. However, in the next scene, the plane starts to vibrate even more and soon catches fire. This leads to a total crash, and everyone lands roughly on the ground. In the next scene, we get to see only a couple of passengers alive. This includes Max, Tyler, Dr. Andrew, their guide Thabo, and Sue. Meanwhile, one of the passengers died on the spot due to the crash. Dr. Andrew notices that even though Sue is alive, she is hurt pretty badly. She is also stuck inside the plane and is bleeding from the injury. The pilot Grun tries to help Dr. Andrew and his wife recover, but an angry Andrew rejects any offers from the greedy pilot. He blames him for the crash and the situation that everyone is in. Later on, Max buries his dead girlfriend near the crash site. The rest of the passengers figure out their crash site and how to reach a safe location. The guide Thabo informs them that the crash site is filled with lions, hyenas, and wild animals. The rest of the guys decide to walk towards a nearby village and ask for help. They also realize that their actions need to be swift, as the wild animals will hunt during the night. After a debate about the right direction, Grun takes out his gun and knife to show who is the real leader. The passengers have no choice but to follow Grun. The rest of the people try to convince Andrew to come with them, but he insists on keeping his wife company. He plans to stay with Sue while Grun and the passengers come with help. Eventually, Andrew and Sue are left alone at the crash site. The wild animals are able to see them, but do not attack them at the moment. The rest of the people also start their dangerous journey. While the passengers are on the desert trail, they faint and look around with despair. Grun offers them water and asks them to continue the trail. Even though they have been walking for a long time, they see no signs of a nearby village. It doesn't take them long to figure out that they are on the wrong trail. A frustrated Max takes the gun from Grun and tries to become the new leader. He mentions that they need to change the route and walk in a different direction. The rest of the passengers disagree with them and try to follow the path suggested by Grun. Even though they have little to no choice, they decide to march with Grun in the hot desert. The remaining members of the group continue their trail and encounter several dangers. Max follows his own direction in the desert while Grun and the rest of the members reach back to the crash site. They find no trace of Dr. Andrew and Sue and observe lion attack marks on the plane. Grun figures out that the wild animals are out for their prey and are hunting during the day. This scares them further, as he looks to operate more carefully with certain measures. Out of nowhere, Dr. Andrew appears and takes down Grun. He tries to choke him and extract revenge for the death of his wife, Sue. Grun is almost unconscious before one of the members fires a flare. The flare distracts Dr. Andrew, and Grun is saved. Later on, Andrew informs the rest of the members that the plane crashed solely due to Grun. He had kept rhino horns inside the plane as part of the larger smuggling scheme. Due to his greed, the plane got overloaded and ultimately crashed. A disappointed Andrew sits by his wife's grave while Thabo comforts him. The rest of the members decide that they need to be vigilant as the night is approaching and everyone needs to be careful. Grun informs everyone that the only way they can survive the night is by sitting inside the locked pilot cabin. However, the catch is that it only has capacity for 3 people. Grun decides to toss and decide, and eventually Tyler is left out. A fire is set up for Tyler to protect him from the wild animals. He is also given instructions to not sleep while the rest of the members are inside the cabin. During the night, Grun wakes up to relieve himself and finds that Tyler is asleep. He wakes him up and advises him to start the fire again. At last, he leaves and locks himself in the cabin. However, Tyler falls asleep again, and this time, a bunch of lions arrive near the crash site. Everyone wakes up due to noise, and Dr. Andrew tries to help Tyler. However, Grun makes sure that the cabin is closed and protects himself. A lion tries to get inside their cabin but soon leaves. Meanwhile, Thabo gets bitten by a snake. Andrew tries to help him and gives him a stick to walk on in the morning. As expected, they found no trace of Tyler outside. The group starts to leave for the village, and Andrew refuses to follow them. He accepts that it is his destiny to stay there and asks them to venture out alone. When Grun and Thabo start their journey, they notice an incoming car on the way and exclaim with excitement. It does not take them long to figure out that these are the bad guys. The men with guns take Andrew on the gunpoint and threaten him. However, Grun and Thabo arrive on the scene and inform them that he is a doctor who is there for help. They further tell them about the accident and how they crashed into this place. The bad guys do not listen to the members much, and also find the rhino horns. When they are on the verge of shooting Andrew, Grun confesses that he is the pilot and that he should be held responsible. When Thabo tries to intervene, the bad guys shoot him up and take Andrew and Grun under their watch. 2 of the men stay there to guard him while the rest of the members return with a bigger truck. One of the bad guys decides to play a game with Andrew, who remains uninterested. He offers him water, only to throw it down in front of himself. When time passes, the bad guys fall asleep, and Grun makes a run for it. He tries to snatch the gun away from the man and notices that he is awake. Eventually, Grun is saved because there are no bullets in his guns. The second bad guy tries to shoot Grun, but Andrew saves him with an interference. Soon enough, the bad guys are killed in an acetone, and this leads to their survival in the desert. Grun convinces Andrew that he is a reformed person and he will help keep the dream of his wife alive. He helps an injured Andrew towards a cliff and carries him forward. Soon enough, lions started to follow their trail. At first, lions do not pay attention to them and start to walk backward. However, when the smell of Andrew's blood reaches them, one of the lions starts to climb the cliff. Grun tries to remain quiet, but realizes that it is of no use. Grun decides to put Andrew's blood on him and run away from him. He makes a promise to Andrew that he needs to find a way towards a village and save himself. This will be his redemption. Grun jumps off the cliff and runs away while the lion catches him. A thirsty Andrew tries to make his way towards the village and encounters some hyenas. He is frustrated and makes them run off while using a stick. All of a sudden, the weather changes and rain starts to pour on him. In a dreamlike state, he meets his wife, who turns out to be their original guide. The guide and the local people save Andrew and take him back to the village. The film ends here. I hope you liked this movie recap. Please comment down on what you liked about this movie and what scene you liked, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.